Welcome again to the SundayGorilla Men's Bible study. We have reached the final chapter in the book of Mark, chapter 16, verse by verse, starting at chapter 1. Chapter 16, verse 1. Now, when the Sabbath had passed, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices that they might come and anoint him. Very early in the morning, on the first day of the week, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen. And they said among themselves, "Who will roll away the stone from the door of the tomb for us?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone had been rolled away, for it was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man clothed in a long white robe, sitting on the right side. And they were alarmed. But he had said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him." Verse 7. "But go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him, as he said to you." Verse 8. So they went out quickly and fled from the tomb. For they trembled and were amazed, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Verse 9. Now when he rose early on the first day of the week, verse 9 again. Now when he rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 demons. Verse 10. She went and told those who had been with him, as they mourned and wept. And when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they did not believe. Verse 12. After that he appeared in another form to 2 of them, as they walked and went in the country. Verse 13. And they went and told it to the rest, but they did not believe them either. Verse 14. Later he appeared to the 11 as they sat at the table, and he rebuked their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they did not believe those who had seen him after he had risen. Verse 15. And he said to them, "Go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature." Verse 16. He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned. Verse 17. And these signs will follow those who believe. In my name I will cast out demons. Amen. That's verse 17. I want to read verse 17 again. And these signs will follow those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons. They will speak with new tongues. They will take up serpents. And if they drink anything deadly, it will by no means hurt them. They will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover. Verse 19. So then, after the Lord had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven and sat down at the right hand of God. And when they went out, they preached everywhere, and the Lord working with them and confirming the word through and accompanying signs. Amen. And that concludes the 16th chapter in the book of Mark. Amen. Amen. And amen. To God be the glory. I want to touch some things that in the 15th chapter, in the final chapter, I want to go back to verse 38. Verse 37, and it says, Jesus cried out with a loud voice and breathed his last. Verse 38, then the veil of the temple was torn from top to bottom. Verse 39, so when a centurion who stood opposite saw that he cried out like this and breathed his last, he said, truly this man was the Son of God. Amen. And that was in chapter 15. And we see that the soldiers that stood by started to believe. right? And it spoke about the veil of the temple. And this isn't symbolic, because if you go back and study the history of the priest, the veil was set up where there was holiness, a representation of holiness, or altar behind the veil, where only the priest would go and make a sacrifice for the people. But when Jesus cried out his last, the veil was torn from top to bottom, right? From heaven to earth. And now, symbolic, or actually actual, now there would be no more priesthood. With the veil torn, and Jesus crucified and later to be resurrected, as we confirm in this last chapter, that we, the body, the people, will now come to the throne of grace and mercy without veil. We would now become the priest. We go to the throne of grace and mercy directly to the altar with our sacrifices. And the amazement in 16 is that those who were with him still did not believe. That in 15 we see that a soldier who was standing by recognized that this was the Son of God. He had only been with him for a minute or a couple of hours at the cross. And we see when Jesus reunites with the disciples, or the 11 remaining apostles, he says, first he rebukes their unbelief, right? And he says, go and preach, and signs will follow, right? He's given us power, right? To lay hands on the sick, to speak in other tongues. Glory, right? But more importantly, the veil has been torn. More importantly, the Christ is now risen, and we come boldly through to the throne of grace and mercy. Amen? To God be the glory. Amen.